go live. Are you ready to go live?
Let's go live.
Okay. Hey everybody, thanks for being with us today. This is the Sunday Slowdown at J&J Acres. We are a part of the homesteadnetwork.com. So if you are interested in wondering what this live feed is all about, you've never been with us before, we are a homesteading channel. We like to talk to people about things that we do on our property to try to be a little bit more self-sufficient. So we want to learn how to do things for ourselves, provide food for our families, learn how to fix things on our own, and all those kind of things. So if you're interested in that kind of a channel, or you're interested in prepping or other type of topics like that, make sure you go to thehomesteadnetwork.com. You can view the show times, which will list out to you every single channel that participates and when they go live, so that you can watch homesteading, prepping, family farm, and gardening kind of videos just about all the day long. So with that said, the way that we like to do things on our weekly show is we'll talk to you a bit about what has happened during the last week, and then we'll get into some Q's and A's and talk to you about what is going on for the rest of the week, and even some sneak peeks into what you can expect to see on our YouTube channel in the coming week. So if you like to know things before anybody else does, then stick around for the whole show, and you'll know what's coming out on the YouTube channel before anybody else.
If you missed last week, we usually post the show that was live within a day or two of having gone live. So you can go ahead and check out last week's show right now on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. And if you are still in the realm of having to take a long commute to work and back, make sure you check out our podcast. You can get a link to that over at jnjacres.net. That too comes out usually within 24 hours of the end of this show. So let's see, where do we want to begin today? Let's talk a little bit about what videos you guys saw last week. Oh, I did want to say, if you stick around, if you're familiar with our show, you know that there's most likely going to be a picture show. And
we have a special surprise this week.
There are some surprises. There is going to be a video portion of the picture show. So I think that'll be something people are going to enjoy. Something we have not shared on any other media outlet. So stick around for that. All right, so last week we had, I think, 3 different videos come out. Normally we put out either 3 or 4 videos. It just depends how much videoing can get done and how many chores are needing to get done around the homestead. Last week, we talked about, well, you guys saw Brandon get to drive the tractor for the first time. And you know, I was looking at that video afterwards, and while I was editing it, and I thought to myself, you are the worst father in the world. Because if you watch that video, and I was bracing for the comments on this when the video came out, throughout the entire video, I'm talking about how Brandon's going to destroy my $20,000 tractor, and how he's going to tip it over, and he's going to break something or whatever else.
And it's a darn good thing that I didn't know that the kid was up on the tractor, because I wasn't worried about the tractor.
But so the whole video, I'm talking about how he's going to hurt my equipment, and I realized after I was editing that nowhere in the video did I express the concern for my child's welfare. But in the background, I had spent about 15 to 20 minutes beforehand talking to him about, we did a safety brief, and I was talking to him about things he needed to be concerned about, how it was going to feel, what to do in the worst case scenarios, and all those kind of things. So I think what kind of happened is I had addressed that in my mind. I had expressed my concern in my mind, but I never told him, don't break my tractor.
Right.
You know, and so when I got around to filming the video, that was the concern that was now on my head. Okay, I briefed the child's going to be okay, and I've expressed my concerns for his welfare to him, but I had never voiced my concern about the equipment.
So now everything came out in the video about the equipment and nothing about the kid.
So, oh well, that's just what it was. But I appreciated the YouTube community for not haggling me about that. It was really kind of you guys. But I think it was even WeTree or another very loyal viewer had commented something about how, thumbs up for not breaking Daddy's tractor, or somebody hold his hand or something like that. But But anyway, that was kind of a fun little thing for Brandon to do. He had never driven the tractor up and down the hills. And I tell you what, there's something about it. I mean, if you put me in a pickup truck, and I'd drive up and down those hills and not think twice about it. But the way that you sit and how open and exposed you are on the tractor, those hills, and it's not the going up and down. It's the little tiny pitches left or right. Mm-hmm. That 1 degree pitch makes you feel like you're 45 degrees and that sucker's about to tip.
And that hill doesn't go straight up and down. That hill pitches you.
Yeah, it does. So instead of just going straight up and down, we're talking about going down like this and then down like this, and it can be a little bit intimidating, especially your first time up there. So
he was shocked the first time I got up in that tractor and had no problems going up and down that hill.
Yeah, she just buzzed right through it. But there have been other times where we were doing some dirt work, and I was telling you that I felt like I was about to tip and I wasn't comfortable doing it, and Jennifer had to stand out there as a spotter and tell me, you're okay, keep going, keep going, keep going. And this whole time I feel like I'm going to tip the tractor, and she's making sure that, no, you really do have at least one wheel on the ground still.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I think that's an interesting thing, and if you've never been on a medium, a mid or large size tractor, and I don't think you can really appreciate how that feels. I don't know if there's
the nice thing about the child in question is that on this property, now mind you, he's not done any of this off property. Mm-hmm. On this property, he has driven your truck, the big Expedition, the main van. Mind you, he has not driven my brand new van. We are not going to risk him scratching my brand new van.
See, she's worried about the equipment too. Not just me.
We started him on the lawnmower.
Yeah.
And your big tractor. And the only thing he has actually crashed was your tractor, simply because he took it between the gates, and the gates weren't quite wide enough, and he didn't take the turn wide enough.
We have a section of chain link fence over on the east side of our house that was set up just wide enough to get the tractor or a truck or something like that
like
through.
Inches.
Yeah. And he managed to miss a turn just enough that, I think it was either the bucket or the implement that was behind it. I forget what. He didn't get it with the tractor. He got it because he was not thinking about the extra length while he was making a turn, and just hooked it and snagged it and tore. Really, what he grabbed was the gate itself and made it all cattywampus.
Yeah.
So it's twisted. It looks like a parallelogram now instead of a rectangle.
And I would trust him to the point where, if I need to run into the store, I'm okay with leaving the vehicle running and putting him in the driver's seat just for the 5 minutes that I'm in the store, because I know that vehicle's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. But that did bring up an important thing where you were talking about how we really need to start teaching Tracy how to drive.
Yes.
Because this was about the time, in fact, it was probably when
a year or two ago.
Yeah, a year or two ago. It would have been back when Tracy was 9 or 10 that we first put Brandon, when he was 9 or 10, up on the riding lawnmower and teaching him how to drive around with the riding lawnmower and get used to that. But we don't have a riding lawnmower anymore.
And she's not big enough for the tractor.
Yeah, and there's just no way to adjust the seat or the pedals in a way that would make it safe for her to drive the tractor. So.
But you were talking about getting another implement in order to mow the lawns.
Right.
So maybe that's another option.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Is there an ROP system on your tractor?
Yeah, that's the big bar that goes up and over. And, yeah.
So he would have been safe even if it had rolled with the seatbelt and the ROP system.
Well, that was some of the stuff that I had talked to him about. The way I tried to explain it to him was, this bar up here makes it so that when if the tractor tips over, it doesn't continue rolling down the hill, or at least it limits the possibility of it happening. And so I told him, I said, you got to wear the seatbelt to keep you in the seat, because that system does no good if you fall out of the tractor and then the tractor falls on top of you and doesn't roll. And so he was understanding why he had to put the seatbelt on. And really, the way I kind of explained it to him was, if the tractor does tip, I want you to just make a ball, put your hands in, make a ball, and hold on and enjoy the ride. and let the tractor smack into the ground, and you'll be okay. It'll shake you up, but at least you won't be hurt. So Are you missing a bunch of questions?
I'm not missing any questions at all. He is 13 years old, so yes, farm children do start early.
Yep, yep. So you can actually go back on the YouTube channel, and if you go to youtube.com/J&J Acres, go to the actual channel for J&J Acres, there's a magnifying glass where you can do a search and type learn to drive or how to drive. One of those two phrases will get you to where you can see where Brandon was first learning to drive using the riding lawnmower.
Yeah.
And then you can see him a couple other times. If you go to the playlist for the tractor, you can see him drive the tractor a couple times in that. So interesting
cool.
things there. All right, so you also saw over the last week this apple cider vinegar results, and I've had a couple people come back and give me some further information on this, both on YouTube and on Reddit and a couple other places. The concern that I had was that mine was so cloudy, and what I was expecting to get was kind of this, what they call a SCOBY, and it's the symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So it's the acronym for that, SCOBY. And it looks like a white blob. It almost, it's not the texture of this, but it almost looks like plain white yogurt.
Okay.
But the texture is solid. Okay, so you pick it up and it's floppy, but you can hold the entire thing at one time without it falling apart. And so that's kind of what I was expecting to get, but it hadn't happened. And so I know that the mother of vinegar I started with was granular in nature, and so I thought, well, maybe it's just because of the kind of mother of vinegar I have, because there are different kinds of yeasts and things, and so I thought, well, maybe that's all it is. And then I had some people come back and tell me, let it sit. Before we were stirring it every few days to try to inhibit the growth of mold and things like that, and to keep the process going. And some people said if you let it sit, it will do what you expect. Well, as it so happens, since that video was actually filmed, I had rebottled it into another half-gallon mason jar, and it has been sitting. And sure enough, if you look at the jar, about half of it, the bottom half, is cloudy, and the top half is that nice translucent amber that you would expect for apple cider vinegar to look like. And right there on the surface of the cloudy area, it does appear that something is starting to form, something white that is starting to form. So it's interesting to think. One person said, have you racked it? And I think that's a wine terminology, and I don't know if that's the same, basically letting it sit. I don't know if that's the same as racking it. But that's kind of where that is now. So, but otherwise, when we're talking about food, look and smell are what matter, and it looks and smells like apple cider vinegar. So, we're still calling that a success, even if we are still learning about that process.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that you saw this week was about the deer salt block taste test. And so the funny kind of thing in that video was I specifically shot a disclaimer. So you see me get right up and close and personal with the camera and tell you, look, it's an experiment for fun. I know it's not scientific. I know that there are variables to this that are crazy and things like that. And it was interesting to see just how many people came back on the video and said they're excited to see what the results are going to be. So that's kind of neat. To know that people are actually looking for it.
Can I give a spoiler alert?
No, not yet.
Oh, please.
Go ahead.
The coons liked it better than the deer.
So, if you follow us on Facebook, you'll actually see the video of some coons crawling all over those salt blocks. And somebody actually shared a funny story. I think this was a YouTube comment where they said that one of those little bricks, so the big 50-pound ones are called blocks, and the little ones that are the shape of like a house-laying brick are called bricks.
Right.
And said that they actually had a coon take one of those bricks and haul it off.
Wow.
So now I'm kind of torn, because part of me wants to put a live trap out there and get rid of the coons, and another part of me is dying for the viral video of a coon stealing my salt block. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, so it's just a funny little taste test. I had bought this plain salt block, and the deer like it just fine. I've seen them go up there and lick it, but I wanted to see whether or not there was any I I don't know, rules of thumb or best practices out there on the right block to provide. And so here's kind of the catch-22. There are some people who believe that you've got to put out the trace mineral block, the brown one,
for their antlers,
because it's supposed to help the bucks with their antler growth and things like that. But that's not what I'm worried about. I need to just lure the deer in.
right?
I want to know what they like. What are they going to like? And so, if you think about it this way, and I'm going to use an extreme example about this, but if I were trying to trap humans and I plant a field of kale, just because that might be the most healthy thing for them, doesn't mean I'm going to lure in the best ones. But if I were to put out a block of sugar, maybe I can get me a whole lot more to choose from.
Honey.
Honey? Yeah, put out the honey.
Put out the honey.
So I'm most interested to see what are the deer actually interested in. And I think there were some comments that had some good points that we're probably going to see the deer lick on different ones. But I am looking to see which one is going to have the most interest. I want to see if there's one where I can say to myself, okay, next year I'm going to buy 3 of this particular block or brick and stage them around my property to give them that throughout the entire year, and then lure them up over into the actual deer plot later in the year. So, Track Authority Videos asked, are we in Toom-Suba? Yes, we are in a little tiny crossroads known as Toom-Suba, Mississippi, right near the Alabama-Mississippi border on Interstate 20. That is exactly where we are.
Deep South Homestead suggests planting black-eyed peas.
Okay.
They don't have any left. Theirs are nearly gone. They planted black-eyed peas and the deer are eating them all.
Our problem has been the lack of rain. We did that video showing where we tried to get water out to the field, but we have had no rain in over a month.
We're on a bad burn ban, too.
Yeah, we're on a burn ban right now. And to try to get water up there as frequently as would be needed just seems impossible. And so now we're running into this. We're within 30 days of our average first frost, and most of the seeds I put out there, which you can go back and watch the food plot planting video to get the full list, most of them haven't sprouted, or what few did sprout have already been eaten off, and so they're not going to grow any further because the deer ate them before they could get established. So
can you remind us again what the rules are about baiting in Mississippi? I know we've got a lot of viewers from all over the place.
So generally speaking, I can have the salt block out there, any mineral block that does not contain grains. So it can't be those deer blocks that has corn and wheat and things mixed into it. It has to be a pure mineral block. I can have right there, and the deer can be licking on it when I shoot it, and it's entirely legal. I can plant a food plot of any crop that I want and use that throughout the deer season, and that is perfectly legal. And we can put either like a milo or sorghum, whichever one you want to call it, down on the ground up until the first day of deer season. So we can't do that anymore, but we were doing it before deer season actually started to try to get them into that area as well. Now, the problem we have on our property, there are some restrictions about, you have to, if you're going to feed corn, you can't put a pile on the ground. You have to put it in a broadcaster or in the kind of deer feeders that keep the food up off the ground in a tray.
Or it'll grow mold.
Right, because it could grow mold. They're worried about if you just put corn out on the ground and the deer don't find it quick enough that the corn gets moldy and the deer gets sick, and that's not good for anybody. So, but the restrictions that we kind of run into some difficulties with is for your deer feeder, it can't be within a certain distance of a property line, and then you can't be within a certain distance of the feeder. And it's I think it's 100 yards or 300 feet, something like that, and there's no place good on our property where we can meet those conditions. So we just scrapped the whole idea of having a feeder and go with the food plot and the mineral blocks, because I can have those right there, and I can put my deer stand 50 feet away and go from there. So the basic regulations here in Mississippi. So,
But it only applies in Mississippi. Every single state has their own.
yeah, every state's going to have their own deer hunting regulations, and just like here in Mississippi, there are several animals that are flat out considered nuisance animals, and you can just shoot them on sight. In other states, there's conditions that apply. The animal has to be doing something noticeably aggressive, or has to be obviously causing the damage to the crop, or whatever else. But those coons, I could go out there right now and shoot them and be done with it, and nobody would say anything to me. So it's just little things like that. So, all right. Any other questions about the topic at hand?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. So we're 20 minutes in, and I think we're ready to go to the picture show. Don't forget to be sending in your questions, and we'll get to them just as quick as we can. I guess before we go into the picture show, we'll kind of treat this like an agenda, and we'll ask for any old business.
There you go.
There was one question earlier, any luck deer hunting yet? I'm not going out hunting yet. You'll see some pictures here soon that might make you think, man, you're crazy. Get out there and shoot them. But for me, personally, it's too hot. It was 90 today. And it's barely getting down to 60 tonight, and I just have no desire to go out and deer hunt in that situation. There's plenty of other people out there. I got friends online that are hunting deer, bagging them up right now, and I'm just not doing it.
And right the second, we don't exactly have freezer space.
Yeah, after putting away that 90 pounds of the hog, we're kind of full on the freezer right now, so that's a pretty good consideration too. There's no point in taking it down. Old as Dirt asked, anyone else running around on the property? That's in reference to a video or pictures that we shared last week, where we saw some individuals on the deer cam that we've never even seen before. Don't recognize them as neighbors or anything. We did not see any people on our deer cameras this week. We just pulled the camera cards this morning and did not see any people. Since I'm not sharing it later, I'll say this now. What we did see were
Feral
two different
dogs.
Packs of dogs. One pack of dogs seemed to be feral. There were three of them in the clip that we saw, and they just looked like ragamuffins. They were ratty looking dogs. The other pack, there were two of them, and they seemed to be well fed and well groomed, and one had a collar.
Yeah.
But we don't recognize them, so we don't know where those were coming from.
In case you're listening locally and it just happens to be your dogs, the one with the collar was black, and he had a very thick blue collar. If he's yours, let us know, and I'll make sure he gets back to you. We don't have him now, but I'm sure I can get him.
Yeah. Very big black dog, too.
Very, very big.
Very big black
Probably
dog.
about 50, 60 pounds
Yeah,
at
I'd
least.
say so. At least, yeah. All right. And another viewer asked, any results on the salt licks yet? That's part of what's coming up here soon. And we'll get to that other question in a minute. So, if I haven't mentioned your question, or your question wasn't about bees, then make sure you ask your questions in all capital letters. That's what Jennifer's looking out for, and she will get that question over to me to make sure I answer it.
Old as Dirt, don't you worry. If those dogs keep showing up in packs, we intend on taking care of them. We are fully allowed to take care of feral dogs on our property, no questions asked. So if those dogs cause any problems, they will get taken care of.
Yeah, and we have had feral dogs on the property
and
before.
I've taken care of them before.
Yeah,
so
it's not good. We've had feral dogs kill off a couple goats. We had them harassing the horse. But I was also thinking about when you went and saved the neighbor's cows from them.
I ran next door barefoot, 9 months pregnant with a .22, shot and killed one of them and scared off the other.
She said it. I wasn't going to tell the story in that level of detail, but now you know the truth. That's what I married. 9 months pregnant, barefoot, through the woods. That's about a 600-foot jaunt up and down a gully, over to a cattle pen.
Through the mud.
Through the mud, yeah. There's a bit of a swampy area through there. Shot and killed one dog, scared off the rest of them. Hey, there's a reason I don't run on her.
But I saved the cows.
Did save the cows. Neighbor was very appreciative.
Never saw the dogs again.
Nope. All right, if we don't get to this picture show, we never will.
All right.
So, here we go. First picture for you here. Count them. How many bucks do you see? I see 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4 bucks. And there were a couple other views here. None of them really gave you a good enough of an angle or clear enough of a picture to be able to go in and count tips or anything like that. But I think 3 of those at least are legal in my area of Mississippi. So that's another thing too. The thing we talked about earlier are generic rules for all of Mississippi, but then when it comes down to what is a legal antlered deer or a legal antlerless deer, bucks or does, that changes depending on what area of Mississippi you are in.
That's true too.
But I think at least 3 of these are shootable in Mississippi. And this next picture isn't quite as clear, but it's a little closer. So there's 3 of those 4. My, oh my. We need another deep freezer, Mama.
Yes.
I don't know where to put it. I don't know where to put it, but we could fill it. I promise you that.
Yes, we most certainly could fill it.
All right. So, those are the 2 pictures I wanted to share with you. Are these 4 bucks? Did anybody have any questions about that before we go any further?
I tell you what, you bring down one of those bucks and we'll go out that same day and buy a deep freezer, okay?
There you go. Well, I don't know if I like that timeline. That's a lot of work in one day to try to do all that. So, but anyway, so the bucks are in the field there, but
they want to know if we've seen unicorn.
I had not seen unicorn on these pictures. So for those who haven't been with us before, we've got one deer that has either a damaged or undeveloped antler, and the other one is growing just about straight up. It's unicorn. So, but I did not see that in the pictures this week. That said, I didn't see 4 bucks in one picture last week. So that's just the movement of the deer, and maybe with us overpowering the area with all those mineral blocks, maybe they'll come in.
At the same time, though, we are also hearing a lot of other hunters, too. So it is
Maybe
possible someone else has already gotten him.
Yeah. So this is something else that I am observing. And we talked about this last week with the pig butcher, that there are just certain things that you grow up doing or you grow up being exposed to it, and you just know that that's the way it is. And sometimes in the how-tos online, people skip a step because they consider it to be common knowledge.
Yeah.
And so with the pig butcher last week, the part that we were not aware of was having to cool the carcass down before doing the detailed butchery. You know, you can quarter it up or take it down to the primal cuts, as they say, and then cool the meat before you get down in there to actually cutting out the different cuts to put on the table. Well, now that we learned that that's a thing, the thing I'm noticing with these deer pictures is I've never had anybody tell me before that does and bucks travel in their own packs. So far, what I'm noticing, and y'all are going to have to leave comments and tell me whether or not this is a factual thing that people just happen to know and I'm just now learning it, I have not yet seen, I've seen 5 doe at a time, I've seen 4 buck at a time, I've never seen 3 doe and a buck. You know, so I always assumed that they traveled in herds, and kind of like thinking about a wolf pack, you know, that they were intermingled, and that the males, and there would be an alpha male kind of thing, and that they would travel around like that. But it seems more like they are gender exclusive until mating season.
Yeah, I think it's more along the lines of a mating season thing. Personally, yeah. I think it's this time of year they're gender exclusive, but once mating season starts, once they actually start rutting, you'll get 1 buck with a harem of females.
Yeah. So maybe that's all we're waiting for.
I don't know.
Yeah. Y'all are going to have to let us know that there.
Yeah, there you go. Deep South Homestead said bucks roam together until the rut happens.
Okay. and then they hate each other, from the way I understand it.
Old as Dirt would like to know if we have any white deer out here, because apparently they have albino deer where he is, and they're illegal to hunt.
I have seen the pictures and the videos to know what you're talking about. I have never heard of anybody reporting of one around here, but I'm not an avid hunter. I don't really go in those groups, so I wouldn't really, I'd have to go looking for that information. I wouldn't just happen to hear about it like I would with general gardening or things like that. So I'm not sure. So there are more pictures, but now I want to show you 2 videos because these relate to the deer plot area, and that's what we're talking about right now. So when we set up the salt block test, Jennifer had the excellent idea of taking one of our deer cameras and putting it into video mode. Y'all, let me tell you what, I am in love with...
He was scared to death of video mode because he likes batteries.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't like wasting batteries, and he knew the video mode was going to eat the batteries.
Yeah. Well, now I'm all ready to go ahead and spend the big money on one of them solar power things for my deer cam and let that sucker run 24/7. I am tickled
for
to
all
death
3
with
of
it.
them.
I mean, you get to see so much more on video than just, I've had my camera set to every setting it's got. It's got single all the way up to 8 burst mode, rapid fire, and standard burst, and all these other kind of things. I've tried all of those.
He's never tried video mode, though.
Well, I have before, but because of, like you say, I'm terrified that I'm going to go out there and in 1 week go from 100% power down to 0, and now I've got to spend $6 on another pack of batteries or something, and so I've kind of stayed away from it. So I want to share with you 2 videos that came out of this, and this is the deer camera that is sitting straight on the salt lick. So this is not in regards to the results. We're not publishing results on our test. That's something that's going to run for many months.
Now we know for a fact, just from comparing the 3 cameras, that the 3 cameras we've got set up specifically in this area, that the video mode camera is only picking up movement between the camera and the salt blocks.
Right.
So anything behind the salt blocks, it's not picking up the movement.
Yeah, we can tell, like you say, from the ones that are set for picture mode and the ones that are set to camera mode, and 2 of those are on the same tree, that we can tell that, well, this one is picking up things further away, but this is only picking up. And so, with that said, you get a lot of background information that you might not have got before. A small animal might activate it up front, and in the back you find out that there's deer too. So it's kind of interesting. So let me show you this one first. When you have a deer camera out there, you don't always see deer. And so this is one of a rabbit. And we're pretty confident this is a regular wild rabbit. You can see the salt blocks in the back there. The one on the far left is the solid white salt block, and the one 2 over is the yellow sulfur block. So since this rabbit looks more like the brown mineral blocks, we're guessing it's just a regular wild rabbit. And from where you see it nibbling at the ground, that is where the regular white salt block would have been dripping its goodies down into the dirt. So, but
that rabbit right there looks to be about 10 pounds. We've raised New Zealand rabbits, and he's about the same size as that.
Yep. So, and we haven't seen, I've seen at most 2 rabbits on the camera at a time. So, we're not going to turn this into a wild rabbit harvesting experiment. We need to see the population of rabbit go way up before we start worrying about harvesting wild rabbit.
And with the feral dogs around here, they're probably taking care of the rabbit population at the moment. We'd have to take care of the dogs first.
So there you go. Earlier on Facebook, we shared one with coons, and if you haven't seen that, you got to go check it out. I don't have it set up to show you here. You have to go to facebook.com/JandJacres, spelled out, and you can see the coons climbing all over it. 3 huge coons climbing all over the salt blocks. So
it's funny.
It's interesting because when we first got out there to check the cameras and retrieve the camera cards, Jennifer noticed the dirt on the salt blocks, and I said, well, either it was a deer's nose, a dirty deer nose, or it was coon feet.
It was coon feet.
And it was coon feet. So, all right. So here's the second one. Look at Bambi. Oh man. All right, so if you don't know already, because this question comes up almost every week, Jared, what camera is that? Look down in the description for the video, and there's a link over to Amazon. You can see exactly what camera it is. It's called a Browning Strike Force Elite, and this was the middle of the day, so it was dead quiet outside, but the camera does capture audio. There was another video where you could hear the deer out in the leaves jumping away, so you can get audio off of it as well.
Now, if you don't see it in the background, this doe is a twin. There are two of them.
Yep. So if you look back right behind her over by the green bushes there, and then not too much longer, we'll get another visitor. This is a 2-minute clip, so...
Any guess when these guys were born?
I have no clue. I could go back and look to see when I first started seeing them on the deer camera, and I wouldn't know whether or not that was just because that was the first time they found our field, or if it was the when they were born. But I think they say up to 90 days on the spots. So, and looky here, coming in on screen left over by the bushes there. Now you see, this goes back to the tractor conversation, because you notice that Mama let the babies go out in the field and get their butt shot before she risked herself coming out in the field. I mean, I'm just saying.
You know, old as dirt, I was really thinking the first time we saw these two babies on camera that it was awfully late for babies out here for us too. But they've got to have their nest somewhere around here, because we're seeing them on our cameras constantly. They've got to be like right here somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. These guys are in the field every day. The two fawns. So pretty exciting stuff. Just seeing nature. I mean, I can't. If I had just the picture mode set up on this thing. The way I have my camera set right now, it takes a couple pictures, it waits a certain time, then it takes a couple more pictures. I don't really want to give out the details, but here I get 2 minutes of video watching these watching these fawns do something, just living life, that otherwise I would have been watching through a scope or a pair of binoculars to see it this crisp and clear and up close. And I think that's really, really cool. So I have got to go find out what it's going to cost me to get a solar powered charger for that deer cam, and I can let it just go and go and go. And yeah. Then the only thing I got to worry about is how big of an SD card that thing will read. I think it'll read a 64 gig, so we should be okay. But anyway. Alright, so that was the second video. Any more questions about the deer? If you got any other question about the deer, we're about to move off that and talk about other things, answer other questions. So go ahead and get those in if you've got one. Are you highlighting that for me? Because I can't read it from here.
No,
okay.
So far no.
All right. So waiting just a few more seconds to see if there's any other deer questions, and then we will move on. But I don't know. I'm excited for it, but to get out there and actually harvest a deer. But like Jennifer said, right now freezer space is a concern, and also we need to make an investment in a meat grinder.
Yes.
We saved back a lot of the pork and pork fat to use in making venison patties and deer sausage. But we don't have the grinder for that, and we want to invest in a good one that will hold up, so it's going to be a couple $100.
Here's a question for you. Is it currently bow season?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
When does gun season start?
I'd have to look. I don't hunt enough to know the numbers off the top of my head, and I'm more likely to take the bow out there anyway. So.
And it's bow season all winter.
You can use the bow anytime the deer season is open. So. Plain and simple. But okay. All right. So not seeing any other questions about the deer specifically. let's go back to the picture show here, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek on things that are going to be coming up. But I'm not going to give you very much detail on these because I do want you to come back and actually watch the video. So here is your teaser. We've got a video about planting some citrus trees. Planting citrus trees is a good title, but really this is about tidying up an area and telling you about trees that we had planted earlier in the spring, the difficulties that we had, and what we're trying to do to make things better moving forward. And you can watch the video and learn about what citrus trees and how in the world we got the nerve to think we can actually grow citrus trees outside in Zone 8. Next is me going out to the grapevines and pruning them and feeding the pigs, and telling you about the things that we're learning about the grapevine, things we want to do differently in the future, what is and what isn't working, and plus you get a little sneak peek on how the pigs are doing. And lastly, trying to save a honeybee colony. Y'all saw last week or the week before about our second beehive that was lost due to the wax moths. You can see plenty of bees in this video or in this picture, so we haven't lost this colony,
No,
but
it's still there.
But it is struggling. So you come back and watch that video. That is a longer video because it's a bee video, and they're inevitably a long process. But come back and watch that, and you can see what troubles this colony is having and what we're doing to try to save them. So this again is the very first colony we had, and it has survived 2 other colonies that have failed, and so we really want to do our best to make sure that this colony stays around and continues to grow. But that said, you know, eventually bee colonies do just die. That's just a fact of it. Even if you're a commercial beekeeper, even though queens come back, or bees make new queens, or you buy new queens, or those kind of things, eventually a colony just dies. It's just nature. Now we're hoping we're not to that yet, but I've read a couple actual scientific studies about tracing wild bee colonies and trying to see how wild bees in nature, how long they typically survive. And we're not talking about the progeny. We're not talking about, well, there was colony A, and that colony had a swarm, and now it's colony A1, and even though colony A died, technically that colony is still alive in A1. What we're talking about is the original colony. How long does it last? And usually it is about 5 years. 6 years is really doing well. So this is their 3rd summer. So we'd like to see a couple more years out of them. And I ended up having to take it out of this video because it was already like 15 minutes long. But one piece of good news is we have found a hive that is ready. It is in medium frames, like what we're looking for, and 3 bodies deep, from a local place.
A friend of ours.
And a friend of ours. And so we're waiting to collect the money and get that situated. And then, so we've already got that hive, I guess is what I'm saying. We've got that colony, that hive, lined up and ready to come to our property. We just got to get the funds together to be able to buy it. And if we can get the funds together before the frost comes in, then we'll move them up here this year, or otherwise this friend of ours is willing to keep them until after the new year, and we'll move them when it starts to warm back up. So again, of course, with the caveat, if they make it over winter.
Yeah.
So, all right, so that is the picture show, and those are that's what's happened in the last week, and the kind of things that you can expect to see coming up in the next week. There is one other video that I might film if I can get some good, something to film. I have planted a fall and winter garden. I have it's very scaled down just to give things a try, and I don't want to spoil that too much for you, but once I can get some more of the seedlings to germinate and have something to really put on camera, if that happens midweek and I can still get that video out by the end of the week, then that might be something you get to see then too. So
Here's a question for you. How long is your Salt Lick experiment going to take before you think you can get that video out?
I don't intend to post my opinion on which one was better or not until after deer season ends.
Okay. So like January, February-ish?
Probably February.
February.
Yeah. That's when I see myself making a determination to say whether or not, hey, they went to all of them, it doesn't really matter, or man, this one right here, look at the hole they licked through it, or whatever the case is. So
we're not giving opinions on what they're liking and what they don't until that video comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably share little clips like I did today with the fawns sitting there licking on it, but I'm not going to offer opinion on whether or not they were liking that one. You know, as far as I know, that was just the first one the fawn knocked its nose into in the field, and so that's why it went for it. I need to see a lot more data
and consistency.
Try to quantify why. You know, they always just went to the ones on the edge. Okay, well, what does that mean? Does it mean it was the one that was closest to the edge of the field, or was that the one they really wanted? And the experiment will probably get revamped and continued on next year, and we'll make some
switch them up.
We'll either switch them up or just make some different plans. You know, put them. You know, one thing I wish that would have been easier to do, obviously, because I want to be able to film this. They're all right there in a neat little row. But I think it'd be nice to be able to say, well, let's put them around the edge and a different camera on each one and see which one they go to. But that just wasn't feasible this year. So there's different things I'd like to see, and things that we can look into better doing next time to keep the experiment going, kind of thing. So let's see here. We're going to get into the Q's and A's now. So we got about 10 minutes left in the show. If you've got a question that you'd like to have answered, or a question about a video that you've seen, a question about what you see is coming, something that happened way in the past, or just a question in general you want to throw at us. It doesn't have to be about anything we've already talked about today. Then type them in all caps and get them over there, and Jennifer will get them to me. Let me see here. Going back a little bit here.
How far will bees travel from the hives?
Thank you. So one question here from Courtney. In your experience, how far will bees travel from hives? I'm in the city, but not around houses. So the general rule of thumb is that they can travel up to 3 miles is the most I've heard. 2 miles is the more commonly said radius. So 2 miles away from the hive in any direction to go and harvest whatever they're looking for. And so, but more importantly, in my experience, honeybees are well, the way I phrased it before is they're money grubbers. So they are not interested per se in the garden that you planted, or that you put their hive in. If they can go a half mile down the road and there is an orchard full of tulip trees or willow trees or locust trees or anything, goldenrod this time of the year where we are, then that's where they're going to go. Where can they get the biggest bang for their buck in making that travel? And
because they'd much rather collect all of the same thing.
Yeah.
They don't want to be collecting a little bit of this pollen and a little bit of that.
Right, so they're more likely to send large groups of bees to a large area to get big rewards for that trip, rather than, well, let's go over to the squash and there's only like 5 plants and we'll tear that apart, get everything we can out of there, and then go to the tulip tree. That's not how they seem to behave. They seem to say, hey, look, there's a tulip tree in bloom. Let's go over there and we'll take care of that tulip tree because we can get so much more out of it.
Yes, Grandpa, tulip trees.
Yep, tulip trees. There's another tulip poplar is what more people call them, tulip poplar. I just call them tulip trees.
Yeah.
So, whatever. Let me see here. Another question: the wild dogs, are they pets? People, they are pets. People dump them near farms. They're pets now, breeding. Oh, I have no idea the wild dogs, where they originated from, or what they are. All I know is that if they do interfere with my wildlife or my farm, then we'll dispatch of them. mean, that's just the way things go. Now, the ones that are well cared for and have a collar, we'll do everything
to take care of.
Yeah, we'll do everything we can to capture them or contact animal control, let them know that we have obviously owned animals that are out here, and try to get them to help us with it if we can.
But even owned animals, the instant it shows aggression at all whatsoever,
legally
we're allowed to shoot it.
But we wouldn't want to.
We don't want to.
But there's also really good here locally Facebook groups for missing dogs.
And we found homes for several dogs that we could tell were well cared for, and gotten them back to their homes. So there was this really pretty white German Shepherd that lived up down the street.
Yep.
So.
Track Authority Videos wants me to mention this was a topic of discussion several episodes back, in an episode where we had numerous technical difficulties, but I talked about it extensively then in a kind of a get to know me video. But they say, mention your other life as the 911 director. You are a busy man. That's true. Monday through Friday, normal business hours is me running our local 911 emergency response center. So day to day, I am the 911 director for Lauderdale County, Mississippi. That's my day life. You don't believe me? Go to lauderdalecounty.org and look up departments and see my shining face right there for 911. So here lately, that has been a very time-consuming business because we are working through some financial considerations, and right here at the beginning of the fiscal year for government, it's been in just about every media outlet you can think of. I've been on the local news, I've been in the local paper, I've been on the local radio shows, and
all in the past week.
Oh yeah, the last week was just, man, they made me earn it.
They did.
But it's good, because normally 911 is one of those kind of things that lives in the shadows. People see the police officer, they see the firefighter, but the most they ever do is talk to the dispatcher. So it's been very good this week to see that get out there, and how much it is needed, and how much everybody else relies on this department to be able to get things done. So thank you for recognizing that. And if you want to know more, there is I don't know which episode number it is, but if you look through the episodes, there's only one that was only 30 minutes instead of an hour. And you can go back and watch that, and I'll tell you my shortened life history, being the 911 director and a deputy emergency manager and all those other things that I do to pay the bills. Alright, so YouTubers asked, do you prune and harvest wild grapes? None of our wild grapes have ever grown enough to harvest them. Or if they do, they're way too high up in the tree for us to notice.
Get to.
Well, yeah. So we do have some of those really thick, like wrist-thick Muscovy vines going way up into our trees, and I couldn't tell you if there's grapes up there or not.
We've got some right over the pool where you could see the nice, thick grape. There's no way to get up there.
Yeah. So, there you are. So, no. There you go. Black Mesa Homestead asks, do you make wine? We do not. We have thought about making mead out of our honey, but we have just not delved into that yet. That would be a whole nother adventure with, we don't have the carboys or the airlocks or all those kind of things, so we'd have to...
And our grapes haven't produced enough grapes yet to even enjoy as snacks yet, so...
Yeah, we've gotten enough out of them to make some jelly and a little bit of juice, but, have we gotten enough to make a carboy of wine? I don't know. So, maybe one day. I'm not opposed to it. But no, we haven't tried yet.
Probably do mead first, though.
But I have to say this. I used to be a very avid watcher of the Wrangler Star channel. And then he got deeply involved into nothing but axes. And I became disinterested because I felt like I had learned all I ever cared to know about axes. But here recently, he's kind of changed how he's doing things and gotten a little bit more, I don't mean to overstate it, but a little more down to earth. And he's got some funny videos where him and his wife were making some elderberry wine. And that certainly did perk my interest back up.
Speaking of elderberries... We've got an elderberry tree that volunteered on the property last year.
Yep. So we've got the elderberry, and we're hoping to propagate it and get some elderberries going as well. This year, what little fruit it produced, the birds got to. We didn't get any of those big old droops of berries that were just laden that you'd go out there and pick. I think he
kind
had
of
to have,
in the shade too. So
yeah, I think Cody over there on Wrangler Star said he had to have like 13 pounds of elderberries. We wouldn't have gotten a quarter pound. So I mean, it's
it placed itself in a really weird spot right next to the driveway, all in the shade. But we're even surprised that it volunteered itself. We don't know where in the world it came from. It just was all of a sudden there.
Grandpa Farm wants to know, how much time will you spend trying to get that buck? You know, whenever I feel like it, like I said before, I'm not an avid hunter, but whenever I go to bed Friday night and I think to myself, I wouldn't mind dragging myself out in the cold tomorrow morning. I prefer to get out there before the sun rises, wait for the legal sunrise time, and then hunt. And if I don't see anything, or if I miss my shot or whatever, by about 9-10 o'clock, I give up and I come in and go do the 100 other chores that are waiting for me to get my butt out of the deer stand and actually go do some work.
And send me Facebook text messages every 5 minutes once he knows I'm awake about just how cold it is up in that deer stand.
Oh yeah, I'm very interested in getting out of the ladder stand and into something with 4 walls.
And as soon as that happens, I'll be there with him.
Yeah. So, I got a lot of friends that hunt from blinds on the ground that appear to be more comfortable than I am. So, I might buy a $50 blind and put it on the ground and a folding chair and go with that later on in the season. But
I've been up on that ladder stand twice, and I know it's sturdy, but the darn thing feels so rickety, and I'm so darn afraid of heights, I don't want anything to do with it.
Karina asked, do we have coyotes? Yes. We do have coyotes in the area.
We've had a picture of one.
Yeah. And I tell you what, last week, of course, it's just now getting cool enough in Mississippi where we're really enjoying having the windows open at night, and tons of howling outside. And I'm not good enough to be able to tell you, oh, that's a whatever kind of dog, or that is a coyote. I don't know it well enough for that. But as much as they were howling, I was thinking we've got some yotes nearby. But then
I'm thinking we're listening to foxes as well.
I thought you had a good point there. You said it sounded a lot like foxes yipping, and we've had fox on the property. And Jennifer's
I've killed one of those.
Only person I know that actually hunted down a fox. I swear to you, this woman saw a fox in the backyard and tracked it and found it laying in the woods and dispatched of it. Okay, I'm telling you, don't mess with this lady. She will go through mud barefoot, 9 months pregnant, and shoot dogs at cattle. Or if she sees a fox, she will hunt. Who hunts down a fox? Nobody does that.
Do not come onto the property uninvited, unexpected, in the dark, and scare me. It's not a good combination. I have loaded weapons.
So
I don't miss.
There's a reason, that people have horses and dogs and things to go fox hunting, but not her. She just tiptoes through the wood and goes, "Ha! Found you!" Plop.
I did too. It was curled up sleeping next to a tree. Shot its head off.
Crazy. So, not seeing any other questions, and with it only being 2 minutes to go, I think we're going to say adieu, and thank you guys so much for being a part of the show.
Grandpa's Farm is going to start his live show next.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so several different YouTubers out there. I don't think that the Homestead Network has set up another person to follow us, so if you're looking for another live YouTube channel to go watch, you can check out Grandpa's Farm. But don't forget to head over to thehomesteadnetwork.com and look at their show times and keep up with everybody that's a part of the network. Thank you all so much for being a part of our live show this week. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed seeing some of the videos off the deer cam and talking to us about all those things. Please don't forget to come back and comment on the video that is being recorded right now, and come back and watch all those videos that you got a little taste of what's coming later. And a shout out to our Patreons over at patreon.com.
Definitely. You guys are helping out.
If you support us over there at the right level, then you're seeing videos nobody else has ever seen, or support us at all. And I'm giving you more casual updates, behind the scenes, pictures of things that I just happen to think about while I'm outside. So it's a fun little community to be a part of. So if you're interested in supporting us there, head over to patreon.com/J&J Acres and check that out. Thank you all so much for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.